We are going to discuss the very unfortunate incident in Mannheim, Germany, which is in the southwest, I believe. And we are going to be very cautious with what we are showing because a lot of the things are that involved here, a lot of the links involve graphic depictions of violence. We are going to have some of the links on our reading list on our website, so definitely go and check this podcast on our website. So we have here news from Visegrad 24. It says, breaking: Islamist terror attack in Germany. The conservative politician and anti-Islam activist Michael Stuatzenberger was stabbed during a public meeting in Mannheim. A police officer was also stabbed in the neck. The attacker was liquidated by the police. Now, we have it censored here, but we will describe you what happened, and we are going to discuss also the way that this has been received. So basically what happened here is that we have the anti-Islam activist Michael Stuatzenberger, who is involved in an organization called BEP, and I searched about it, and they call themselves right-wing populists. And he is one of the people in Germany who is routinely speaking against the Islamization of Europe, and he's trying to raise awareness on this issue. So what we have here is him and a lot of people who were adjacent to AfD and I think the youth organization of AfD. And they were in Mannheim, and he was giving a speech. And at the time, we have someone who is running with a knife, and he is, I think, a counter-protester. Not I think, he was
I don't think we can call him a counter-protester. He was just a Afghani immigrant with a knife.
And I think he's I've heard that he's a fake asylum seeker.
My understanding is that he
was born in Afghanistan and then went to Germany.
Yes, and apparently he was trying to escape the Taliban, and of course the first thing he does when he gets to Germany is to try and recreate basically the same set of rules that the Taliban were insisting on. Yes.
So here you can see there is a whole mess in the video. He is running with a knife. He starts fighting with people. He wounded, I think, Michael Stuatzenberger. And then there were people who tried and fight him and detain him. And then there were many police officers who tried also to detain and separate those who were fighting. And at some point, someone comes in, and a police officer is on top of him. And the stabber goes and stabs the police officer in the neck. We have here yet another post. This is what Europe is dealing with. Islamists trying to stab our police officers in the neck just a week before the European Parliament election. Ruven L. is the police officer who was 29-year-old, and he was stabbed in the neck, and he unfortunately died. He reportedly donated his organs and had his parents as well as his partner by his side when he died. May he rest in peace. So this is his face here. And we're going to show you how this event was received as well as its aftermath. Now, we have an article here from the European Conservative called The Beacon of Mannheim. And it was written by Dieter Stein. And he says, for the first time, a German police officer has died in an Islamic attack. Germany should pause to mourn the loss of a brave young man, and then it is time to finally address the policy that is leading the country to the abyss. So by all means, go out and check it. Not everyone rushed to depict the event as it happened. Some people rushed to depict it in ways that were designed to be misleading. Now, 31st of May. 25 minutes past 1. We have here an article from Euronews with the title, Far-Right Activist and Others Hurt in Stabbing in Mannheim. And it says, police says several people, including a far-right anti-Islam activist, were injured in the incident. An assailant with a knife attacked and wounded several people in a central square in the southwestern Germany city of Mannheim on Friday, police said. Now, I want to say something here because it seems to me that this is a pattern, and it's good to notice patterns. When the press and mainstream media are routinely talking about such events, they just observe the amount of adjectives that they put in front of the people who they are against politically, and how abstractly speaking they refer to those who belong to groups that they seem to be supporting.
Because if you just read that headline simply, you would think that it was a far right winger that was doing the stabbing.
You will see this also, especially when it comes to how Sky News depicted the event, which we will talk about in a minute. And this is really important because we need to be very much aware of how communication works. And for better or worse, most people, I think worse, but in sometimes understandably so, most people just don't have the time to read whole articles, and they look at titles and the first paragraphs and then they skip. And you could say that to a very large extent, the internet and websites are designed to do this by having all the things around the article in order to capture the attention of the user and stay on the web page. So you will see routinely that a lot of the negative adjectives are used in order to characterize those who are against politically with the main line of the mainstream media, and you will see how very abstractly people are presented on the other side. Now let's go to this article from Euronews from today. It says, Germany, police officer injured in Mannheim stabbing dies. The attack took place during a Pax Europa event, an organization which describes itself as informing the public about the dangers posed by the increasing spread and influence of political Islam. And it says here, a 29-year-old police officer has died of injuries suffered during a knife attack that left 5 other people injured in the central square of Mannheim. The officer was stabbed several times in the head and neck by a 25-year-old immigrant from Afghanistan and underwent emergency surgery after the attack Friday. This is 3 days after the event, and it suggests that the knee-jerk reaction was to sort of try and present it as they usually do, but there was a lot of public outrage for this, and here they are trying to just present it in the first paragraphs rather than just keep it down. And it says here, Chancellor Olaf Scholz posted on X that he was deeply grieved and that the officer's commitment to the safety of all deserves the highest recognition.
Well, it's a damn shame that Olaf Scholz isn't committed to the safety of Germany, because he wouldn't be importing millions of people.
Well, recognition isn't just empty words. Recognition requires policies, especially when it comes to politicians. Is that a controversial point? I don't think so. Right, here we have another article from BBC News. German anti-Islam activist injured in knife attack. Here, just a stabbing happened. Somehow it happened. And yet again, German anti-Islam activist and knife attack. It says, a man has attacked 6 people, just very abstractly, a man. In order to portray this allegedly, you could be saying in order to do it along the progressivism line where, all crimes are to be attributed to male culture. A man has attacked 6 people, including a police officer, with a knife at a market square in the southern Germany of Mannheim. One of the people injured was anti-Islam activist Michael Sturzenberger, who had been preparing to hold a rally in the square, according to his group.
And he's quite seriously injured as well. I mean, he got a puncture wound in the chest near the lungs.
I think also
on the leg as well, and
yes.
and there was one other one as well. But I mean, it missed vital organs very closely. And what was he doing? I mean, he was talking out about the dangers of importing people from these countries. And his point was proven by having one of them run in, attempt to murder him, and then actually murder somebody else, as well as stab a couple of other people on the way as well.
Yeah,
it sort of suggests, doesn't it, as well, that he deserved it.
Yes,
that just a man.
The journalist wants you to believe that.
Yeah. That he brought it upon himself.
Yeah,
because that's always the thing. It's like, don't let's make sure, don't have any inflammatory cartoons or anything. If you do say anything, then you're just bringing it on yourself.
Yeah,
It's your own fault.
don't slow down immigration. Don't question it. Just keep bringing them in, and then eventually it will be all right. Reasons.
Mm.
This is the exact equivalent of people who say that when women are sexually abused, it's the way they dressed.
Yeah.
This is the exact equivalent in bigoted double standard rhetoric.
It's funny because I'm having some cognitive dissonance though, because David Cameron and Barack Obama insisted that Islam was the religion of peace. Is it not?
Yeah. Well, and I heard that, and then every time a terrorist attack pops up, I think to myself, right, it's definitely the Buddhists this time. Never is. It's always the Muslims again. Don't know why.
Here, the incident was caught on a YouTube live stream and showed the attacker stabbing a man. And so, again, on the first paragraphs, we have very abstract representation, very abstract description of the person who did the stabbing. And you have lots of adjectives for the target, for Michael Sturzenberger. The attacker was shot and injured by another police officer.
Was he not killed? Was the attacker, was the Islamist terrorist not killed?
I think he has been detained.
No, he was shot once.
Yeah.
And then the police immediately provided him emergency medical care after he just killed their colleague. So he is now getting the best medical care that Germany can provide.
I assumed
in hospital.
he'd died, but he hasn't.
No.
Okay.
No, he's still there.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, again, they are saying what he said, and they are also mentioning another post of his that says violence is absolutely unacceptable in our democracy. The perpetrator must be severely punished. Well, the question here is if there is any double standard in presenting several cases merely as isolated incidents and to be judged as isolated incidents on the one hand, and routinely grouping and categorizing people who have particular beliefs in the worst possible way, telling people to extract all sorts of patterns from that behavior, most of which are projected, and demonize them.
Well, pattern recognition is racist for whatever reason.
Apparently.
The chat is telling me that the terrorist did die, and I thought he didn't. But okay, I'm confused. I don't know. Yeah.
If he did, I stand corrected. And
yeah.
Okay. Here we go to Sky News and how it presented it. Germany knife attack. Police officer dies of his injuries. The 29-year-old was one of the 6 people who suffered serious injuries during an attack in the central square of Mannheim on Friday. Police have not publicly suggested any possible motive.
Wow. Wow.
And look at here, the first sentence. A police officer who was stabbed during an attack at a far-right rally in Germany has died. I mean, is that not designed to just completely...
And then the whole first section of this, there was nothing to suggest.
Issue.
It was nothing to suggest it was an Afghan refugee. Nothing.
Yeah, but we are told about a far-right rally.
Yeah. All those people who believe in, being opposed to terrorism and stuff like that.
They say here underneath, some sentences afterwards, a 25-year-old suspect from Afghanistan was shot.
Oh, okay. If you go down far enough, they mention it.
Yeah, but what we should show here is also on the BBC that they leave it underneath. So look at the article from BBC. Here, they start talking about it. They start talking about, far-right and anti-Islam activists and all this bits here. And you have to scroll down to the very end of the article to see that they are saying police have not released the identity of the suspect, but German media outlets say he is a 25-year-old man who was born in Afghanistan but lives in Germany. And underneath they say, who is Michael Sturzenberger? And they say, according to Bild, Michael Sturzenberger is the author of an Islamophobic blog, as well as a member of the BPE, an organization which says it stands against the Islamization of Germany. A former politician, he once led the small right-wing populist party, Die Freiheit, which was dissolved in 2016. What is interesting, here they're not using the term far-right. They say right-wing populist.
Well, because when you apply it to an individual, it becomes actionable libel.
Yeah.
And they call him Islamophobic, though.
Yeah, I was just thinking, what does that word mean? Is that being afraid of
something that people are? Yes, it's
being afraid of Islam.
An irrational fear is a phobia.
So hang on. So just to clarify, so scroll up a little bit. That guy there,
Yes.
who is currently lying in hospital with critical knife wounds, who came very close to death because he was attacked by an Islamic immigrant. He is the one who is irrationally afraid of Islam. Irrationally. Thank goodness that the police officer who died is not irrationally afraid of Islam.
Well, is that one angle you were going to talk about at all? Is that it wasn't clear because at first it looked like he was tackling the cop that got stabbed. Looks like he was tackling the wrong person.
Yes.
But then isn't there a second angle or a second bit of footage?
Yes. So
okay,
you're absolutely correct. So what happened is that the first video that was released shows only a part of what happened. And there was yet another video that was released afterwards that shows the event from another angle, from a different angle. And it seems that
it was a bit messier than it
was
looked
messy.
At first. Yeah.
And it suggests that a lot of people who rushed to talk about it in a meme way were wrong. And let me say what the meme is. And Dan especially has some things to add on this. So the meme shows a German on the ground, and it says underneath das Volk, I think, or die Volk, the people.
People.
The police officer on top of the person, and they were saying the state, and the Afghan immigrant slashing him on the neck, saying, immigration. And a lot of people rushed to say that this is an instance of the state being against its own citizens and being stabbed in return.
Yeah.
It didn't exactly happen this way for several reasons. Dan will talk about it right now. But one thing to say is that there were lots of people present and lots of police officers. So the fact that some of them tried to detain and separate one of the others doesn't mean that this person just had a beef with the German people. And it doesn't mean necessarily that the officer who died did so because, for instance, he was brainwashed by leftist propaganda.
I mean, the meme kind of stands because by itself it is true that the German people are being held down by the state while being murdered by immigration. So the meme is true, but it is a little bit messier than that because so what actually happened was the knife man ran in. Of course, this causes chaos, and you're just standing there, you're facing one way, and all of a sudden there's people screaming and something going on. And it's very disorientating. It's easier when you can sit and watch the video 5 times, but when you're actually in it, it's very disorientating. And what happened is this Michael Stellenberger guy was stabbed several times. There was a scuffle with a number of people. He then sort of flies off, and this is all happening very fast at sort of running speeds. Some other guy, a couple of people then start to hold on to the knifeman, and he falls to the ground, and one of the bystanders is basically holding down his knife hands, and the guy in the blue jacket that you saw in the meme, he came over, and it looked to him like the bystander had the knife because he was holding his knife hand. So he starts punching the bystander, and of course the bystander just takes it, and presumably he was saying, "No, I'm not the knife." He was presumably saying something. You can see him saying something. I don't know what it is, but he continued to hold the actual knife man down while the guy in the blue jacket incorrectly was hitting him. And the police officer runs in and just rugby sort of tackles the German guy to the ground and pins him. But what that does is it knocks clear the bystander that was holding down the knifeman. So he gets up and then goes and stabs the officer in the neck. So, I mean, the meme is kind of figuratively true in that that is what the state is doing.
Suggests a broader pattern of what happens, but not necessarily on this case in these individuals.
But it was all down to everybody having an incomplete, messy picture of what was going on because it was so chaotic. So the officer presumably saw, the German guy punching this other guy, and didn't step back at all and think, okay, well, what's going on here? He just immediately tackled that guy to the ground, and in doing so exposed the knifeman and turned his back and his neck to the knifeman. So the meme is figuratively true, but it's not quite as literally true as it first looked.
But one thing that is absolutely obvious for anyone who watches the video is that the attacker just wanted to cause harm.
Yes.
You see this. It's indiscriminate attacking.
So just to be clear, so you're saying that it looks like the cop that died wasn't just thinking, I know the real problem here is the German guy trying to prevent a stabbing. He just got it wrong.
I mean,
he made an error in the heat of the moment. You're saying that's what?
I mean, it's probably that, because everybody in the video, when you watch it from all angles, everybody in the video is just completely taken by shock, and there's a lot of confusion as to what's going on. Like I say, the guy underneath in the meme, the guy in the blue jacket, I mean, he was actually fighting the wrong guy. He was fighting the guy who was holding down the knifeman.
Yeah.
But yeah, the police didn't assess it properly. And actually, while we're on the topic of police, at least the guy who died, did something. There were a couple of female officers there who turned and ran away. So, and this is the thing about, I don't want to generalise on all female police officers, but female police officers work really well when you're dealing with a population that consents to being policed. It doesn't work so well with a population that does not consent to being policed.
Can I make one last quick point?
Yeah.
In the footage, probably everyone's seen it. I've seen it. The thing that struck me, apart from the cop that lost his life, sort of doing the wrong thing, maybe it can be excused in the heat of the moment. He didn't really. It was so quick. That's totally possible.
Yeah.
But the other cops that waited until their colleague got stabbed before firing, it seemed to me they waited far too long before opening fire. It seemed to me they literally just waited for him to stab him like a couple of times in the neck.
Yeah.
Before they shot him.
Right, we need to go to speed up a bit. Here we have a protest of Germans against the youth of the AfD party that is having a gathering in Mannheim. Imtiaz Mahmoud says, in Mannheim, Germany, a young police officer was murdered by an Afghan Islamist, and 5 other people are injured. The reaction in Mannheim is a demonstration against the right. Anyway, praise.
And I read a lot of the German responses to that, and a lot of them are just saying, this is unbelievable. People are protesting against, us not liking this immigration. We are lost as a nation, and I understand why they think that way.
And we are going to end the segment by showing something about the broader context, because about a month ago, there was a young AfD politician that was convicted after publishing gang rape statistics in connection with Afghan migration. And the statistics that she spoke of were actually published by German authorities. And we have done a segment on this called Stop Noticing Crime Statistics. It is on YouTube.
She's basically the German Sam Malaya then.
I don't necessarily think they are equivalent, but she was citing evidence from the German authorities, which is interesting because it creates the question, it raises the question, why are statistics being published if people cannot talk about them? And I think there are 2 answers here. One is in order to appear as legitimate and talking about it instead of obfuscating the issue. And the second is to suggest that the only interpretation of this data is economic, and push forward the narrative that so long as such crime exists, it is 100% boiling down to economic reasons. So people need to be taxed more in order to give more money to these communities and obfuscate entirely the issue of customs and habits that people have. So at the end of the day, that's the issue. Europe has a problem. There are people who are trying to talk about it, and the establishment frequently tries to pretend that this doesn't exist. And it's a crazy, crazy world. And last thing to say before we end the segment is may the soul of Louvenar rest in peace.
I wonder if and when they'll trot his family out to make a statement about, we must keep immigration as it is. Whether they'll do
they'll
that old cynical thing.
Well,
Certainly don't look back in anger. Whatever you do, don't look back in anger. Don't let the politics of hate divide us. That's the most important.
House.
I hope you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, and if you want to see what else we're up to, you can go on our website and follow Dan's series Brokenomics. And if you want to see all of the work we're doing, you can go to our Twitter account where we post everything. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.